What's up, booktube? It is Monty, and today I am back again once again with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about The Silent Patient by MICHAELIDES because this book put me fucking through it. So if you aren't aware, what is it, like 2 weeks ago at this point, a week and a half ago, the week before last, I read The Maidens, which I'm going to leave a link to my reading vlog for that week because there was a vlog, there was like a couple of clips about it. I talked about it, I ranted about it, I spoiled the fucking book. So just know that at a certain point there is a spoiler warning and you can exit that. But the short and long of it is, I think that book was horrible. And I was told that The Silent Patient was a much better book, that people were confused as to how the same man was able to write both stories. And so that, coupled with the fact that Monet wanted to buddy read this, I got it from the library. So I got it from the library, I listened to it, all of it yesterday, and my first thought is, you can definitely tell that the same man wrote The Maidens and The Silent Patient. And I think that both of them are exemplary of what I don't like about, I usually say this about YA thrillers, adult thrillers, or mystery, because I don't think either of these books are all that thrilling. I think they're both just plain mysteries in the setup because they're both boring. They're both led by characters who have no business being therapists. I don't understand why MICHAELIDES continues to write in this like mental health profession, because as incompetent as Mariana was, Theo is like 12 times more incompetent. And so it was even more infuriating being in Theo's head, because the entire time that you're reading the book, he is like, not only is he determined to be like Mr. Detective Man, but if there are not like red flags going up the entire time you're reading the story, just based on how like obsessed he is with Alicia, like that doesn't make any sense. Like, this man is out here fully obsessed with her before you ever get the job at the health center, and you're supposed to just go along with it. This man who was like, oh, I stood in the queue for hours to see this portrait. I'm her biggest fan. I know everything about her case. And I'm supposed to be like, yeah, go be her therapist. This man who is sitting there in his little interview telling us that he is like manipulating his way in, and then when he's in there, he's manipulating his way into being Alicia'S therapist, and I'm supposed to think this man is like fine. This man also starts off the book talking about, this isn't my story, this is Alicia'S story, and it would be wrong for me to talk about myself, and then proceeds to talk about himself for 300 pages. I'm supposed to think this is a normal person who's like, this isn't my story, and then makes the entire story about him. And then his story isn't even interesting. His story is not interesting. That's like my problem. So both The Maidens and The Silent Patient are roughly about the same length. I think the physical copy of both of them is like 300 and some odd pages. They're both roughly like 10-hour, 11-hour audiobooks. They're very similarly set up, where we have dual narration. One of them is like the main character, and the other narration is like, in The Silent Patient, it's the other character, and in the fucking in The Maidens, I think it's supposed to be the killer. It's like, I don't understand what that second narration was. In the audiobook, it was the most uncomfortable thing to listen to, so I didn't like that other perspective, but they're both told in like dual perspective. Here, like I said, the main storyline is told from Theo, and we get Alicia'S journal entries, and I have to say that when you have framed the character of Alicia as so unreliable, I do not care about her. I did not care about the journal entries. I didn't care about a look into Alicia'S life, because to me, she wasn't supposed to be reliable. So when she was giving us, the rundown of what was happening leading up to whatever happened, I wasn't invested. And then in Theo's storyline, outside of him trying to like be Mr. Detective Man and creepy stalker man, we had to hear about his like love life. And I have to say, I did not care about his love life. I did not care about his failing marriage. I thought that his marriage could have, like, I don't want to say like could have been easily salvaged, but I did think that it would have been very easy for him to actually confront his wife. And the fact that he never confronted his wife, the fact that we never get that scene, the fact that that was never brought up, I actually kind of hated, because he went out of his way. As you know, we're just at this point we're getting into spoilers. So if you have not read The Silent Patient in the past 2 years, one, don't. You're living in the best possible timeline where you have no information. And two, it's been 2 years, and I know it's not like the longest time, but I feel like if it was a high priority, then you would have gotten to it. So that's a thing. But like I said, I don't recommend it. Don't go out and get it. If, like, much like The Maidens, if for some reason you too decide that Alex Michaelides is deserving of your time, he's not. I promise you, he needs to be stopped. He needs to be stopped. Y'all have gassed this man up. When we talk about like media, when you all were out here talking about Chip Cheek, y'all should have been talking about this man. Because I will say that Kate May, I had a good time. I had a good time. It was messy. It was not the worst book I've ever read. I had a decent little time. Y'all should have been talking about Alex Michaelides. I don't know I mean, again, I would not have paid $800,000 for no Kate May, but I had a decent time. I don't know what they paid this man. Over at, this is the same publisher, Celadon Books. So Celadon Books has money to be handed out apparently, and this book was below mediocre. Below mediocre. I am almost like, I say this very in my Goodreads review. I said I almost think that like people were paid to give positive reviews, and that is a joke. I'm not actually out here impugning the dignity of people on Goodreads liking this book, but like that's how bad this book is. It is the way that people have been talking about The Maidens. You can take all, aside from the surprise pedophile, you take everything else in that book that doesn't make sense, it doesn't add up, and you can apply it to The Silent Patient. Every criticism, again, aside from the surprise pedophile and that plot line, but everything else you can apply to The Silent Patient, from like the horrible portrayal of mental illness to the horrible therapying. But I look at something like A Falling by TJ Newman, which was also a debut. It came out earlier this year. That was a good time. It was a good time from start to finish. Now the premises are very different, but the way that civilians have to be involved there, I think it made sense. It was working. I liked it. I had a good time. So like you can do these like, and that was actually thrilling. Like that was I don't know if I'd call it a thriller, but there was a lot of more suspense elements than there were in The Silent Patient. The Silent Patient does not have any suspense elements until the last like 30% of the book. It is a very run-of-the-mill mystery. It is a mystery. So let's not call The Silent Patient a thriller, because it is a mystery. That's it. That is all it does. There is no twist in the fucking Silent Patient. That's not a twist. It's an unmasking. It is a revelation. Let's use words appropriately. But moving on, spoilers. So the big reveal in the book, the big unmasking, is that there is no twist, because Alicia did kill her husband. She did shoot that man 5 times in the face. So what happened was, like I said earlier, Mr. Theo's wife was out here having an affair that he knew about, because he was out here reading her emails. He was following her around town. He was low-key stalking his wife, which was very uncomfortable to read. Very uncomfortable to read. Like, at least it was something exciting, but it was also, like I said, uncomfortable to read. So he's out here stalking his wife, and one day he sees them go into the woods, and this man is sitting there watching his wife have sex. Well, he's not watching her have sex with this man. I think there's like a little bit, like there's some space between, so he can't actually see. He can just hear her having sex in the woods with this man. And I was like, this is foolishness. This man is angry that his wife is fucking somebody else, and he's just gonna stand here and he's like forcing himself to listen to it, because literally nobody else would tell this man to go sit there and listen to your wife get fucked by another man. Literally nobody is doing that. And this man is irate and angry. Just like it didn't make no sense for this man to be irate and angry earlier in the book when his wife came home and she was mad that she found weed. And he was like, well, in his head, he's like, well, you're having sex with another man, and I wanted to throttle her and thrash her and beat her with my fists and flip furniture and then cry in her arms. And I was like, this is just very uncomfortable to read. Not only was it uncomfortable to read, but I was like, this is the character y'all like? Like, y'all were talking about Theo like he was miles above Mariana, and it makes perfect sense to me why they're friends. Perfect sense to me why they got along so well. they're both not suited for the job, and they're both just like weird people. Just like weird people. Like, that is definitely the kind of person that Mariana would have in her life. So apparently at some point after this altercation in the woods, he goes and he stalks by their house and he sees where the man that fucked his wife lives. And then at some undisclosed point after that night, because it's not that night, he goes back and he like ties up fucking Alicia and he terrorizes her for hours, and she's like tied up and he has a gun and he's like threatening her with, well, he's not really he's like doing weird shit with the gun. It was weird. And then when her husband finally comes home, he like ties him up too, and he like is threatening him with the gun, and he's like, who do you choose? Do you choose you? Like, you can die, or do you want me to kill your wife and you can live? And he just could not decide. And so Theo just like shoots the gun into the ceiling and unties Alicia, and he's like, see, now you know who your husband is. And I was like, this is all just very melodramatic. Like, this is not the swerve that I was told that it was going to be. This is not the wave. This is not the moment. This is not the reveal. This is ass. Like, the entire book leading up to this has been ass. It has been boring. Nothing has happened. These characters are just like not interesting enough to follow, because the entire time I'm like, of course they need to shut this place down, because none of y'all are really all that equipped to like actually be here running this facility. I almost started to feel sorry for the killer in The Maiden, because the killer in The Maiden is supposed to be in this facility, and I was like, there's no way that this character is like getting any kind of help. Like, no way that character got any help here. Not with these doctors. No way. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. And then when we finally, so that all happens, and then Alicia's like, oh, my husband was gonna have me killed, and so she just decides to kill the man and shoots him 5 times in the face. And the book kind of just like pins all the blame on her, even though there is a section where Theo's like, oh, I didn't know about her past traumas, and if I had known about her past traumas, then I wouldn't have done what I did. And I was like, how about you just don't hold people at gunpoint, period? Because I think that people being held at gunpoint, even without the past traumas, that would have really fucked with them. I thought it was ass the entire time. The entire time I was reading the book, I thought it was ass. And then when I got to the unmasking, when I got to the explanation, when I got to the reveal, what y'all were out here calling a plot twist, like, to me, that's not a plot twist. Like, all of the hints that have been dropped throughout the book, definitely, I will say that The Silent Patient did a better job of like leading the reader to that same conclusion than The Maidens. In The Maidens, it just was kind of like, yeah, there's a surprise pedophile, and because of the grooming and the stupid plan that they had, this is the killer now. Then I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Here, I think you can definitely look back at the story and be like, okay, like, sir, there are like elements here that totally lead to that same conclusion. And so if The Maidens is a 1 star, then The Silent Patient could be 1.257. Like, it's sure, I will give it more credit, but at the end of the day, it's still a failing grade. So how much more credit, like, the credit that you get doesn't matter. And I think that when I read The Great Hunt earlier this year, I asked if improvement mattered, and at the end of the day, I said improvement didn't matter. And here, I can't even ask that question, because this was the debut, and if we're going by the 1.257 and the 1 star, there was clearly a regression in the amount of 0.25 stars. And so you even really hate to see it. So I don't understand, one, why Alex Michaelides had y'all by the throat with this book, because this book was ass. Don't understand it. And 2, I'm still baffled by the way that people seem to be confused that the same man wrote both books, because I think that you could almost swap out the characters. Like, you could have Mariana in The Silent Patient, and you could put Theo in The Maidens, and I think that the same story would have unfolded, because they're both incompetent, and they both would have made similar actions. They both have similar tragic backstories. They both had cheating spouses. Like, they're like, you could literally swap them, and they would probably do the same things, and they would have the same outcome. So for me, I don't understand why y'all don't think that the same man wrote both books. I feel lied to. I felt immediately betrayed by the booktube community. For y'all, I was immediately enraged when I saw that the Silent Patient is a 4-star average on Goodreads. I just I don't understand. I'm not really looking for explanation because I don't want to understand what people saw in this book, really. I just needed to come here and talk about it because I feel like I feel like this man needs to be stopped. Like, 2 times now, the man has essentially written the same book, and y'all have only complained about it once. So I am here to do my part as a book reviewer to let y'all know to avoid Alex Michaelides. He does not write good books, and I was severely underwhelmed both times. That's all I have to say. So if you made it into the video, let's drop this emoji in the comment section. It's probably gonna be like a nurse or something if I can find like a nurse emoji. I'll see you guys again soon in another video. But until then, and until next time,